Dark Shadows, number 64, BTR 91566, Air 92266, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. When I first arrived at Collinwood, it was with hope and fear. Hope that the secrets of my past would be unlocked for me. Fear of the unknown that lay ahead. And now that fear has been centered on a man's death, and the endless ripples of tension it has produced.
Is Maggie gone?
Yes. What'd you do all day, dear?
Why did she come here?
She was upset about something.
Does Maggie Evans usually come up to Collinwood to talk to you when she's upset?
Carolyn, it needn't concern you.
Oh, sure. The waitress from the hotel restaurant comes up here for the first time in her life. You give her a big earful about Burke Devlin. And all you want to talk about now is how I spent my day. Well, I had a lousy time. Trying to forget about this place, but it didn't work. Why did she come up here, Mother?
She was worried about her father.
And what does that have to do with Burke?
Darling, I'd rather not talk about it.
I'm sorry, Mother, but you can't tell me what I just heard you saying to Maggie and then ask me just to drop it. Let me see, what were the golden words? Burke's capable of anything. Lying, cheating, even the slander of an innocent man. Whatever that means. Do you really believe all that?
I think so. Yes.
And the rest of it? You said you thought Burke was capable of murder. Do you believe that too?
Carolyn, please.
Mother, I know what's on your mind, and it's horrible. You think Burke killed Bill Malloy, don't you? Why don't you tell me, Mother? That is what you think, isn't it? That Burke Devlin hit Bill over the head and then pushed his body into the water.
I never said that, Carolyn.
You said he was capable of murder. Well, what other deaths have we had around Collinsport since he came back?
Bill's death was an accident. Nobody killed him.
Then why did you say what you did?
Because I was angry. Carolyn, I see no reason to account to you for every word I say.
You also said that Burke was capable of slandering an innocent man. Well, when I walked in here just now, what do you think you were doing?
I was trying to help a troubled girl.
How? By calling Burke a murderer? How does that help Maggie?
Perhaps I did go too far.
But you did mean the rest of it.
I don't know what I meant. I told you I was angry, Carolyn, and now I'm angry with you.
Why? Because I'm defending a man who's never done a thing to harm us.
You don't know Burke as well as I do. I'm tired of warning you about that man.
Oh, yes. And you've warned me, all right. When the brakes failed on Uncle Roger's car, you warned me. Even after we knew that Burke had absolutely nothing to do with it, you still warned me. Mother, when's it going to stop? When will you accept the fact that Burke hasn't done a thing, not one single thing to hurt any of us?
That isn't true.
Then you do think that Burke was involved with Bill Malloy's death?
There are many ways to be involved, Carolyn. And I believe Burke intends to use poor Bill's death to create as much difficulty for us as he can.
How? What could he possibly do?
Darling, I just want you to realize that he is not a friend of ours.
Mother, that doesn't answer my question. The manager of our fishing fleet drowned. How could Burke possibly use that to create any problems for us?
He can and he will. Just take my word for it.
Mother, did you say anything about this to Matthew?
About what?
Oh, this nonsense about Burke. Did you mention it to him?
Why?
I ran into Matthew at the Blue Whale just before I left to come home. He was looking for Burke.
Matthew was looking for Burke?
Yes. And he asked me to give you a message. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I think I do now. He said to tell you everything was going to be all right, that there wouldn't be any more trouble.
Hello, Matthew. What are you doing here? You seen Collins in here tonight?
No.
How long since you came down from the hill?
Half hour?
He hadn't come home by the time you left?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Stay here, Devlin.
Sorry, I haven't got the time.
I want you to stay.
Let go of my arm, Matthew.
Devlin, I've been sitting here and waiting for you. Now you and me are going to have a talk.
Look, I got nothing to say to you.
Well, maybe I've got a little something to tell you. Now sit down.
Get your hand off my arm. All right, now, what's all this about?
Bill Malloy. You and Bill Malloy.
What do you got on your mind?
Are you sure he's not there? But my daughter saw him there about... How long ago since you left the Blue Whale?
Oh, 20 minutes, half hour ago.
He was there about half an hour ago. Well, if he does come in, will you ask him to call Mrs. Stoddard? Yes. Thank you.
Maybe he's changed his mind, decided not to be your avenging angel.
Carolyn, I had no idea he'd do a thing like this.
What did you say to him?
Oh, I really don't know exactly. We were talking about Bill Malloy, and I said I thought Burke would continue trying to find reasons for Bill's death.
And I suppose you said it worried you and upset you, that kind of thing.
I can't believe he intends to harm Burke.
Why should that bother you, Mother? He's an enemy of our family, isn't he?
It's foolish of me. I should have known.
Well, maybe he is on the way home.
What did he say to you?
I told you that he wanted to keep trouble away from you, that he wanted to see Burke. Because if it weren't for Burke, Bill Malloy would still be alive.
I never said anything like that, Carolyn, believe me.
Well, so he decided it for himself from what you did tell him. What difference does it make?
He's a fine, loyal man, but I know he wouldn't hurt anyone.
Don't kid yourself, Mother. If Matthew thought anyone wanted to harm you, I think he'd tear them apart.
Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Stoddard. This is George Patterson.
Oh, hello, Sheriff.
Mrs. Stoddard, I'm sorry to be bothering you like this, but, well, I was just wondering if you'd seen or heard anything of Burke Devlin tonight.
No, why?
Well, he's on a kind of a rampage, and I thought he might have headed up your way to talk to your brother.
He hasn't been there here.
Well, if he does show up, Mrs. Stoddard, do yourself a favor, will you, and call my office and let me know?
Well, what do you expect he might do?
Well, you never can tell with a fellow like Burke. Maybe nothing, but, well, I'm just trying to keep the peace as much as I can.
I'm not afraid of him.
Well, sometimes being afraid is a lot better than being hurt. Now, if he does show up, you be sure to call me, all right?
All right.
Thank you very much, Mrs.
Oh, don't hang up, Sheriff, please. There's something else I think I better talk to you about.
Something new on Bill Malloy?
Connected with it. It's about my caretaker, Matthew Morgan.
Up at Collingwood. You know what Miss Stoddard's going through on account of Bill Malloy dying?
Now, why don't you tell me, Matthew?
Something a person wants to forget. An old friend like that drowned, you don't want to keep thinking about it.
Who's doing the thinking? Roger Collins?
You better leave that family alone, Devlin. I warned you once what had happened to you if you didn't.
Who sent you here? Roger Collins?
Nobody had to send me here, Devlin.
Or maybe it was Mrs. Stoddard. She decided to protect her baby brother, is that it?
She don't know I'm here. You heard what I told that waiter when he said she was calling and asking for me? First time I ever lied to her in my life. You know why, Devlin? Because she wouldn't like what I'm going to do. She'd try to stop me.
What are you going to do?
Kill you, Devlin. That's right, I'm going to kill you just like I said I would if you don't stop hounding that family.
You're out of your mind.
No, I ain't, Devlin. That woman's been real good to me, and I'm not going to stand around and watch her suffering because of you.
Now, look, I didn't push Bill Malloy in the water.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe nobody did. But I know what you're after now. You want to stir it up. You want to keep after it. You just want to use it to make all kinds of trouble for him.
What I want to do is find a murderer. If it makes trouble for Mrs. Stoddard, that's her problem, not mine.
I'm warning you, Devlin. You pack up your bags and get out of Collinsport and never come back.
I'll think about it.
What you thinking about it, Devlin? I want you going. I want you going tonight.
Why don't you get off my back? I got troubles enough.
Don't you tell me about your troubles after what you're doing to Miss Stoddard.
Mrs. Stoddard, what the devil do you think she is? An angel or something? Well, she's not. She's a neurotic woman. She's buried herself in a tomb for 18 years, and she likes it that way.
Don't you talk about her
And
like
you
that.
tell her problems are just beginning. You tell her that, Matthew.
You come back here,
Get
Devlin.
your paws off of
Devlin,
me.
come back here. I told you I was gonna kill you. I told you.
Matthew, let him go! Matthew, let him go!
All right, break it up. Break it up. All right. Both of you. Let's get out of here.
Why don't you let me catch my breath?
You'll catch it, Burke, in my office. You too. Now move, both of you. All right, get in here. Sit down. You over there. And you there. Well, I ought to book both of you, you know that?
You mean you'd book him? He lives at Collinwood, Sheriff.
I hope that was a joke, Burke. Well, all right. What started it?
I warned him, Sheriff, and he wouldn't listen.
You warned him about what?
He thinks I ought to be a good boy. Forget about Bill Malloy's murder. Pack my bags and leave town.
Is that what you told him to do?
He's a troublemaker, Sheriff. Ever since he came back to Collinsport, he's been digging into things that are none of his business.
You think these things are my business?
No.
Well, you're trying to choke someone is my business. Now, who told you to chase Burke out of town?
Nobody.
You believe that, Sheriff? You believe Roger Collins had nothing to do with this?
I told you it was my own idea. Nobody knew I was coming to see you. Nobody.
Just take it easy, Matthew. Calm down now.
Stoddard told me he'd be making trouble, asking questions about Bill Malloy's drowning.
And why do those questions bother you so much?
And me. Them. People in the big house. He don't care about Bill. He's just trying to upset Miss Stoddard and the rest of them. Well, I told him it was bad enough Bill dying the way he did without him even giving her a chance to forget about it.
And I suppose you told him that you weren't going to let Mrs. Stoddard and the rest of them forget about it.
Something like that.
Matthew, I want you to go outside and wait. Just sit on the bench out there and wait until I call you back in here.
You gonna arrest me, Sheriff? I'd hate for Miss Stoddard to know about this.
I'm going to think about it. Now go on.
Collinwood breeds murderers. He almost killed me.
Where have you been tonight, Burke?
Around.
I thought I told you to leave the police work to me, didn't I?
I thought you hauled me in here because of a fight in a bar.
I did, but you just now told me you weren't going to let the people up at Collinwood forget about Malloy's death.
Murder. Malloy's murder.
I have no evidence of a murder, and you know it.
What are you going to do? Tell me the same thing as Matthew? Pack my bags and get out of town?
Don't you try it, Burke. Not until I've got a coroner's verdict. Now, you listen to me. This is a police investigation, and I don't want you going around acting judge, jury, and executioner.
Of course not. We'll leave that to the big slob out there on the bench. I don't understand you, Sheriff. That's a dangerous man. He tried to kill me, and you're lecturing me. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Don't you worry about Matthew. I can handle him. The person I'm not so sure of is you.
I wish you told the sheriff to call you back if he found Matthew.
Nothing's going to happen, I'm sure of that.
If Matthew does anything to Burke, Mother, it'll be your fault. No one else.
Will you stop worrying about Burke Devlin?
You'd like that, wouldn't you? Then you could have the whole family lined up in a row, aiming their guns at him. Well, I'm not going to be on that firing squad, Mother. Not tonight or ever.
Carolyn, I hadn't intended to tell you this, but if you're going to continue defending Burke, I suppose I'll have to. You asked me why Maggie Evans came here tonight. It was because Burke accused her father and Uncle Roger of being involved in the death of Bill Malloy.
That's ridiculous.
I quite agree, but Burke did make the accusation, not only to Miss Evans, but to the sheriff as well.
What did he say?
Simply that Uncle Roger knowingly allowed him to go to prison for a crime he claims Uncle Roger committed.
The manslaughter charge?
Yes. He also said that Mr. Evans knew Uncle Roger was guilty and didn't come forward at the time of the trial.
How terrible. No wonder Maggie was so upset.
He said that Bill Malloy learned the facts and was about to reveal them shortly before he died.
Burke told all this to Maggie.
Yes.
And was tonight the first time you'd heard about it?
No.
But how could he? I mean, why should he say these things?
The fact is that he did say them, and they're untrue.
It's just so hard to believe.
Well, which would you rather believe? That Burke is a vicious liar, or that Uncle Roger knowingly permitted an innocent man to go to jail?
Tell me that again, Burke. I'm not sure I heard you right.
I said I went to see Sam Evans tonight.
I did hear you. What did you do that for?
I told you I was going to get to the bottom of this Malloy business.
And I told you this Malloy business is my business. What did you think you were going to do? Beat a confession out of him for a non-existent murder?
I expected to do a lot more than sit behind a desk and play nursemaid to a half-crazy caretaker.
Burke, I've about had it with you. Now, I don't want to lock you up, but you're just asking for it. Now, what happened with Evans?
Nothing. He ran out on me. About an hour later, he came to my hotel room. I don't think he killed Bill Malloy.
I don't know that anybody killed him. When are you going to get that through your thick head?
If it wasn't Evans, it has to be Roger Collins.
Burke, I don't seem to be getting through to you. Now, look, this is a badge, and I wear it, not you. I represent the law around here, not you.
Well, then do something about it.
If there's one thing I don't like, it's a vigilante. And that's what you're trying to be. Well, I'm going to give you a piece of advice, and it's the last time I'm going to warn you. Now, you go back up to your hotel room and stay there. Stay away from Roger Collins and stay away from Collinwood. Is that clear?
Why don't you tell them to keep their goons away from me?
Burke, you get out of here before I lose my temper. Send Matthew Morgan in here. Go on, go back up to your hotel room.
Treat him nice and easy, Sheriff. Remember, that family has influence in this town.
Sheriff, I was thinking...
You've been thinking too much lately. Sit down.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said you wanted to keep trouble away from Collinwood?
Yes, sir.
Well, then you stay up there. You work their farm for them, you carry their firewood, but you keep away from Devlin.
I was only trying.
Now, don't tell me what you were trying to do. I'm telling you what you're going to do.
What if Devlin won't stay away from Collingwood?
You worry about yourself, not Devlin. And just consider yourself lucky I didn't put you in one of these cells out here.
But what if he does come up there?
He won't. Not after tonight. Not if he knows what's good for him.
I've only been concerned about what's best for you, Carolyn. How I wish you could have gone away from here before all this started.
It wouldn't have changed anything.
Oh, for you it would have, darling. I know what you've been going through.
Mother, I've always liked Burke.
Always? You've known him such a short time.
I know, but why did he have to do it? Why did he have to say those horrible things about Uncle Roger?
Because he's bitter and angry.
But he always seemed so, I don't know, so different. Mother, how can you ever know anything about anybody?
I've never learned the answer to that question. I suppose the best you can do is put your faith in someone you love and hope they'll be honest with you.
Yes. If I could only talk to Burke and ask him how he could say these things.
I suppose you should if you feel you must.
You wouldn't object?
Would it make any difference if I did?
No, I suppose not.
I can't say I'd be happy about your talking to him, or even seeing him for that matter, but there comes a time when you have to make your own decisions.
Mother, I love you.
I love you too, darling. Now, why don't you go upstairs to bed and try to put all of this out of your mind and get a good night's sleep? Good night, darling.
Good night, Mother.
Hello, this is Mrs. Stoddard. Is the sheriff there, please? Well, I wanted to know about my caretaker. I'd asked the sheriff to... Oh, well, never mind. I think he's here now. Thank you. Matthew,
Good evening, Mrs. Stoddard.
Stay tuned for Where the Action Is next here on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.